Games really should be a barrel of laughs from start to finish. That's the whole point of them. They're fun little toys designed for entertainment, yet sometimes they go so badly wrong, grown adults are reduced to tears. I'm not sure that was ever the idea here. It's true though, and the repercussions some designs have are so bad they do utterly ruin gaming, even if that's for loads of different reasons. I'm Simon Miller, and this is 10 massive decisions that utterly ruin gaming. Number 10, Star Wars Battlefront 2. We'll start with the most relevant, as it's still making waves around the video game industry, and it genuinely does suck. While we just see death and destruction when it's mentioned these days, the core game is actually pretty decent here. It's just ruined because of loot boxes gone mad. Aside from introducing an infuriating metagame where you have to keep unlocking abilities if you want to get anywhere, there's also a bunch of ludicrous obstacles put in place that stop you actually getting to play as the characters you wanted to play as. Stupid. I get it too, publishers are terrified of not making enough money or keeping someone hooked for long enough, but it's hardly a good idea if it's going to completely balk the experience. You're going to fall into that pit anyway. It's better now, sure, but it's still past the point of repair. Battlefront 2 should have been a wonderful love letter to Star Wars that also finally had those damn space battles in it. Instead, it's a mess. The real question is how this affects the whole situation going forward. So every chance just fades into oblivion. Number 9, Respawn's secret EA talks. Now this didn't really ruin gaming, as it did of course lead to the forging of Respawn Entertainment and Titanfall. Titanfall didn't sell very well, but it's still awesome, and really as fans, we don't have to care about sales too much. We got a good game, and that's all fine and dandy. However, you could argue it was the bullet in the Call of Duty franchise, as ever since then, the entries have never really hit the highs they once did. Also, the sheer madness of the situation did enough to at least rock the industry. In short, Jason West and Vince Zampella, the former lead creators of Modern Warfare and Infinity Ward, were having secret talks with EA, Activision found out, fired them, and the rest is history. Now I know all this got legal, so I'm going to throw in the word allegedly here. So I've done my bit. Leave me alone. But Activision did say at one point it thought there had been an attempt to steal the studio, and well, I don't think you can be more clear than that. It's like someone standing up in court and saying, yes, I did that crime. You don't then all of a sudden sit down and ponder what the deal is. Today, of course, EA now owns Respawn, so what happens with that is yet to be seen. And it's not like COD is a lame duck these days. It still sells like crazy, just has never had that same ingenuity, or at least that's what some would argue. Number 8, Nintendo goes virtual. While history has made us think otherwise, the Virtual Boy wasn't as big as a failure as people made out. Just a huge failure for Nintendo. In 1995, when this contraption was released, Nintendo had sold about 20 million Super NESs and around 61.9 million NESs. Even the Game Boy had shifted 40 million units, so when the Virtual Boy got to around 770,000, that just sounds terrible. It was a stupid idea from the start though, as initially it was just meant to be a toy. It was never meant to be affiliated with Nintendo's console brand the way it was, but somewhat understandably, everyone involved thought given their momentum they may do alright out of it. They didn't, clearly, and it did sully Nintendo's reputation to a point given that we're still talking about it today. But the real issue was the environment they found themselves in at the time. With new laws dropping constantly and the fear that the Virtual Boy may be bad for gamers' eyes, the instruction manual was littered with things not to do. Even the most balanced person would start to question whether this was going to destroy their face, throwing that the games were pretty awful and didn't last long. And then there was all the fun with the Nintendo 64. Oh well. Number 7, Sega releases the Saturn from nowhere. In 1995 at E3, Sega went into mass panic mode and released the Saturn on stage there and then. It was the dumbest move ever and pretty much killed the entire company in terms of its console output. Whoops. This really was ridiculous as well, as Sega had an autumn release already planned for the Saturn. Everything was in line too, from getting the damn system ready for then having a bunch of marketing to boot. However, as mentioned, Japan got all spooked thinking that both Atari's Jaguar and Sony's PlayStation would kill them unless they got to the market first, so they just threw it onto US shelves there and then. This not only surprised everyone in the audience, but pretty much everyone around the world too, because it was unheard of. Not surprisingly, backfired. Not only was the thing expensive at $399 for the basic machine, but they were in short supply given how quickly this had all come together. Then on top of that, all the games were rubbish, and there weren't that many either. The real final blow came from Sony themselves, where at its press conference it simply had head of development Steve Race get on stage, utter $299, and then leave. From there, no one wanted a Saturn, and the end was nigh. Number 6, Nintendo doesn't explain a console. I was at the E3 reveal of Nintendo's Wii U, and even I sat there baffled as to what it was meant to be. It became clearer once more details were released, but the announcement was so botched and the name of the damn thing so open-ended that they'd lost lost half their audience before the press conference was over. The reason the Wii was so successful is because it was easy to explain. You grab the remote and you wave it around like an idiot. Anyone can understand that, especially idiots. But here Nintendo was going on about portability and showing off some kind of dinner tray, forgetting that a large portion of individuals they were trying to attract were new to all of this. Why did they need this new thing if they already had the old one? It's clear this was the case, as Nintendo did the exact opposite with the Switch and sold it as something different and inventive. And what do you know? It worked and Nintendo is back on top of the pile. As for the Wii U, well, it will forever be considered a flop, and it kind of was on arrival. Don't think that was the plan. Number 5, Square Enix over pre-orders Deus Ex. Straight up, this didn't annoy me as much as it did some other people. It was ridiculous, but I've always been under the impression we can ignore things. That's what I do. However, the pre-order campaign by Square Enix really did undermine Deus Ex Mankind Divided. A lot of people threw their hands up in the air and screamed that it was pre-ordering gone mad. Again, the solution is just not to pre-order and everything will stay the same. But the idea of the more sales Deus Ex racked up before it launched tying into what rewards came beforehand irked a lot of individuals. This ranged from soundtracks to loadouts, although the one that seemed to make people cry with rage was that if we as a group unlocked the highest tier, the whole game would be released 4 days early. There was so much outcry, Square had to ditch this idea entirely, and I really do think the fallout affected the game. Came and went without as much as a peep. Number 4, no Half-Life 3. Honestly, there's one thing that probably brought about the rise of the internet idiot, is the fact that Valve promised an update to Half-Life 2 Episode 2 and then just went quiet. No confirmation, no cancellation, just silence as the company went about running their online shop. I get why that would annoy some people, it's not exactly good business practice, but the fallout from this transforms certain individuals into insane cretins who genuinely get madder and madder as the years go on. Just look what happened when Valve teased something and it turned out to be related to Dota 2. These jabronis went and spammed Dota's Steam page as if that was going to make a difference. It's the ultimate proof that the saying time is a healer is that bullshit, because it's been almost 2 decades at this point and this group gets angrier by the day. If that hasn't ruined gaming on both sides, I don't know what has. Number 3, Microsoft's Xbox One vision. More controversy from me, but I actually thought what Microsoft was trying to do with the original incarnation of the Xbox One was pretty cool. There were some eyebrow-raising features, sure, but it was different from the PS4 and that felt important to me. Then everyone got mad again, and Microsoft almost literally turned it into the PS4. The real point of contention came in terms of what would happen when you put a game disc into your Xbox One. In short, it would basically tag it to your machine and then make you authenticate it was you by logging onto the internet once every 24 hours. This was bad, essentially because it would kill off the pre-owned market, even though the balance was meant to come in the form of being able to share your own games with friends digitally. It received such a bad reaction though that Microsoft had to can the idea completely and start again. Not only did it sour people on the console before it even come out, but it just opened up the door for Sony to take loads of shots at their main competitor as Don Matrick had to stand there and take it like some schmo. I would argue it's only been the last 12 months or so that has seen the Xbox recover from all of this. That's not good. Number 2, nerds. Tying into the Half-Life entry, nerds are ruining games on a daily basis. If you have any opinion they don't agree with, even one you've argued politely and fairly, they will go crazy and call you names that will hurt. And why is this happening? Because of a video game, aka a toy. It's genuinely baffling behaviour and makes people who aren't familiar with the industry look down on it. For example, imagine you didn't know much and then heard about trolls sending death threats to a developer because they weren't happy with the final product. How is that going to endear themselves to anyone? Somehow this continues to rage as well despite more of us being aware of it. Hell, with the right angle you can even wind them all up with a video. I should know. That's doubly confusing as they could just stop watching, but they don't. And of course a large reason for this is because of what online culture has become and the fact you can hide behind a keyboard on social media, but that seems like a poor excuse to me. Grow up, morons. It's not that important. Number 1, Twitter. And where do most of these schmucks create such hell? Twitter. An outlet that should be there to connect the world together and make it a bit smaller. Instead, it's just a breeding ground for maniacs to voice whatever opinions they want and cool people whatever they like. How is that good for gaming? It's not exclusive to that, of course, but there is a very specific culture around it and a lot of it comes from here. Plus, I don't get it. Just take a breath and go back to playing Warhammer or whatever it is you do. Leave other people alone. Not everyone is as miserable as you are. Now please do head on over to patreon.com/SimonMiller316 to support these videos. Like, share and subscribe. Come follow me on Twitter @SimonMiller316 where you can call me, I don't know, a fucking barnacle. And then go have yourself a lovely little day.